been... in the league. Witness the equaliser. Dave Smith, Tony Sheridan and Mark Rutherford involved. Sheridan's finish, too good for Phil Harrington. Where the Dublin side are weak at the moment is when they haven't got possession. Cork's second proved that. Excellent play through midfield. But where are the tackles from Shelbourne? A delightful ball out to Damien O'Connell. Loads of time for the cross. Not a Shelbourne player in sight as Kelvin Flanagan finished off a superb move for his first goal of the season. The look on Alan Gough's face said it all. But for Cork City, the crowds will be flocking back to Turner's Cross if they keep playing like this. And in the second half, Cork wrapped up the points with Shelbourne's defence again culpable. Declan Daly found O'Connell in an acre of space, and only Alan Gough in the Shelbourne goal saw the danger. He was beaten by an exquisite lob. Not a Shelbourne defender in sight once again. And at the end of the game, some contrasting thoughts from the two managers.
I feel bitterly and deeply ashamed of what went on at Turner's Cross, because at the end of it, as anybody will tell you, at any grade of football, without pride and passion, you haven't got a football team. And we came down here on Sunday and we had a team without pride, without passion. And our football was free-flowing and we were entertaining and we played good stuff when we had the football. When we didn't have the football, we were awful. We ran Cork City around in circles when we had the football. When we hadn't got the football, we ran ourselves around in circles. And you can't do that. We had no consistency in our defending. Our defence, their back three were all over the place. Our midfield players let people break through to come at us. And our strikers, with a couple of sections of the team, we didn't do ourselves justice.
I've been saying it all along, and it's very difficult when you're at the games yourself to realise this, but things haven't been hit in the back of the net, but thankfully today they did.
Difficult day for Damien Richardson in Cork. That's what those matches did for the top.
3 straight wins is no mean recommendation. Finn Harp's early form had them brimful of confidence at Tulka Park. John Quigg's astute through ball found Paddy McGranahan in an acre of space. And a wonderful finish, putting Harps 1-0 up. An army of red shirts had been ball watching. They missed McGranahan's run, but you've got to heap huge credit on him for the finish, beating Gough on his near post with a fizzing shot. Shelbourne not without their ideas too. Tony Sheridan prominent as ever, combining with Baudequin and luring Conor Frawley into the challenge, which referee Tommy Traynor rightly deemed a foul. Penalty shells. Fair to say Mr. Traynor singularly unimpressed with the defence put forward by Frawley, which was, as it should have been, a foul that was clumsy and obvious. Sheridan down and Shells in with a shout. The ever-dependable Greg Costello hadn't reckoned on the inspired dive of David Platt in the Harps goal. An excellent save which took a little out of the keeper. Costello normally slots these in his sleep, but Platt got it absolutely right. You know, it really wasn't Greg Costello's night. Not long after, he got his name in the referee's book for an intervention, deliberate handball. Good refereeing, where Johnny Speake was homing in on goal. The aerial battle inconclusive, but Costello did quite clearly handle the ball. Now, Speake mightn't have scored, but the free kick gave Harps an opportunity, which they exploited. Tucked away by Stephen Kelly from Pierce Walsh's free kick. 2-0 after 38 minutes, and after so long away, Harps clearly warming to life in the Premier. Something wasn't quite right for Shells. The wall, the goalkeeper, not for the first time, their defence slower to react, giving Kelly his chance. Second half, Finn Harps playing the better football, always prepared to scrap around the midfield. Or maybe scrap, the operative word here, being too literally applied. Clear evidence of shirt pulling after Pierce Walsh had won the ball back. Mick Neville, the culprit, but it scarcely warranted that intervention. And Tommy Traynor, quite right, that the Finn Harps man had to go. Pierce Walsh eventually making the walk. But Shelbourne's Mick Neville too, for his part in this, also found himself on the way to an early bath. Then I suppose it does take two to tango. But it left the home team without the experience of their skipper. Both teams down to 10 men. The dismissal did little to cool the contest. Shelbourne had a goal disallowed. Costello's free kick finding Pat Morley. Stephen Gagan tucking it away. But the linesman and referee quite rightly had Morley offside. The former Cork man yet to claim a regular place on instead of Darren Kelly in the second half. Finn Harps still in control. And a chance of boring Shelbourne ringing out around Tulka Park. Now, it may have been laborious, but they did keep plugging away. And at this stage, the 70th minute, they did get their reward. Harp's clearance, not as good as it might have been. Pat Morley free in the box. And looking a class act as ever there, sensibly involving Rutherford, and a couple of deflections on its way to the net. And with 20 minutes to go, Shelbourne were back at the races. Mark Rutherford getting the credit for the goal, but it was Morley's good work beforehand that had really created it for him. Sucking in the defenders, who left Rutherford free. And similar to Harp's opener, and into that same Ballybuck net. And some worrying for Finn Harps to do. Morley again finding himself in space. Sheridan, who'd started, tried to finish the move, but couldn't. Fine combination. Can't be long before Pat Morley finds a regular place in this team. Great ball through by Sheridan, who continued his run and was there to attempt to finish it off when Morley pulled it back across the face of the goal. Should have been 2-2. But Finn Harps too had an opportunity to make it absolutely safe. Coming towards the conclusion, Jonathan Speake getting some space on the right. Beautiful ball through the middle for Alan Doherty. But Alan Goff, superb, making the save that kept Shelbourne in the hunt, but not close enough to Harps to garner a point. This is the last big chance of the night, falling to the team who eventually left with the 3 points. Goff saving, but he'd let two in. The final score, Shells 1, Harps 2.
3 matches, not one of them showing the slightest respect for the bookies' odds. At Oriel Park, 2 from Joe Gallen, 1 apiece from new boy Fintan McConville and Joe Hanrahan steadying the Dundalk ship, despite the fact that Leonard Curtis had given Shamrock Rovers an early lead. The top 2 played tonight, but the sands fairly shifted behind them. Just look at Finn Harps, 4 wins in a row now and up to 3rd, though Sligo have
in the league with some excellent football in the first half, and they went ahead after just 5 minutes. A wonderful build-up involving Vordekan, Morley, Sheridan and Vordekan again, with Stephen Gagan providing the finish to a very well-worked move. It's well worth seeing again. Vordekan to Sheridan, 1 touch again back to the full back, another 1-2 with Pat Morley, and then the first-time cross. A perfect finish then by Stephen Gagan past the flat-footed O'Dowd. Well, Gagan had another chance 5 minutes later. Again, Shelbourne's first time passing, opening up the Derry City defence. Gagan had Rutherford available to his left-hand side, completely unmarked, but he opted to take it on himself. This time, O'Dowd made the save. The ball eventually cleared by the Derry City defence. Well, Shelbourne's second goal came in the 27th minute. Rutherford's corner kick eluding all those in the danger area, but Vordekan had plenty of time to pick out Pat Morley, and he made it 2-0. Well, the corner kick possibly overhit by Mark Rutherford, but luckily it did fall to a Shelbourne player. Again, Vordekan's cross was inch perfect, Morley losing his marker and finishing well. Well, the first half hour was all Shelbourne, and Mick Neville's speculative shot tested O'Dowd once more as they pressed for a 3rd goal. Well, Alan Goff hadn't much to do at the other end in the first half, but when called upon, the Shelbourne keeper reacted well to save first from Tommy Dunn's free kick, and then, as City kept the attack alive, the goalkeeper was back in position to avert the danger that might have come from Tom Mohan's shot. Well, just before the interval, Derry City pulled one back. Peter Hutton putting in the challenge here, and the ball eventually ran to Keddy. He in turn found Liam Coyle, who was aware of Tom Mohan unmarked to his right-hand side. The pass was perfect, and Mohan finished it well too. It really was the perfect time to score for Derry City, just 5 minutes before half-time. Peter Hutton putting in an important challenge there. Keddy picking the ball up. An intelligent pass through to Liam Coyle. And he showed great vision to pick out Tom Mohan. What a superb finish that was. Well, Derry City picked up where they'd left off in the first half as Shelbourne seemed to lose sight of the plot early in the second. The visitors came close to getting the equaliser when Mohan connected to Tommy Dunn's cross. Goff got down quickly though to make a fine save. The ball eventually cleared. But the sides were level in the 74th minute. This time it was a defensive lapse by the home side that allowed Liam Coyle score his first goal of the season, and how well he took it. Again, the Derry City number 9 providing the inspirational touch and giving the visiting fans something to shout about on the night. What a fine goal it was. James Keddy involved again. He was one of the best City players on the night. Coyle steadying himself well and pushing the ball past Alan Goff. There were opportunities for both sides in the closing stages. The best fell to Shells, but Reardon's header was cleared off the line by Dunn. Well, a minute from time, a tussle between Shelbourne's Pascal Vaudecan and City's James Keddy ended with the Frenchman being sent to the line. An unfortunate end to a good game.
Well, Felix, considering the conditions here at Talcott Park tonight, that was a pretty decent game of football. Are you happy to come away with a point?
Well, I suppose when you're 2-0 down.
Goals for the spectators to cheer at Turner's Cross this afternoon, but the home fans at Talcott Park have something to shout about.
Friday night at Tulka, and Shelbourne kept their excellent run going. Vaudecan's cross, Scully with the first header, Morley with the goal. As Shelbourne's title challenge gathers momentum. And in the second half, another sweetly struck delivery from the Frenchman, powerfully dispatched by Morley, his 6th goal in his last 6 games.
Sherlock O'Connor sends an unchanged Bohemians team into battle. They've been dislodged from the top by Derry City's victory last night, and O'Connor will wish for an improvement in recent home form. Just the 1 victory in their last 3 games at Dalymount Park, that over UCD by a single goal. They've lost 2 against Shamrock Rovers and Sligo Rovers. For Damien Richardson, it's a 5th match with an unchanged 11, and they are in a rich vein of form. 5 wins out of their last 6, the other match was drawn. They've 4 victories in a row and are coming here seeking their first win at Dalymount Park in a league match against Bohemians in 2 seasons. It's Doolan knocked wide to Tony O'Connor. Don't let the numbers deceive you. Number 8, O'Connor, the captain, plays right back. Oh, and here's an opportunity for Bowes at Swan. And Derek Swan gets his 6th goal of the season, and Bohemians hit the front in sensational style. And the last 5 encounters between these teams have ended 1-0. A goal so quickly would suggest there might be more than one in this. An error there by Pat Scully. Swan around Alan Goff, and the gaping goal gratefully accepted. The Bows captain swept it long. Scully made the error, and Swan was in. And Alan Goff already beaten. First goal against him in 3 games. Rutherford. Clearance by Brady, but it's Campbell again. Gagan trying to get in. Brady clears once more. Now it's Sheridan. Vaudecan. Bohemians a little disorganized at this moment. Crossed by Vaudecan. It's Cole with the header to put it over the top. He's looking for Stephen Gagan. Shelbourne's corner taken by Vaudecan. And Henderson at the 2nd attempt. It was a testing ball. The French fullback put in. Henderson kept his eye on it though and did what he had to do. Well saved. Now Neville again. Morley laid off for Sheridan. Sheridan opted to shoot off. Henderson put to the pit of his corner to save that. Inspirational player, Tony Sheridan. Well, he saw the opportunity there, and he's got fierce power in those boots, and Henderson did very well to claw it away. Now Byrne. Ryan. Doolan. Swan. And the layoff for Doolan. Good play this by Bohemians. Doolan with Mooney outside him. And Swan arriving as well. It's Brian Mooney still. Mooney shot straight at the keeper and cleared by Campbell. Wide for Byrne. Byrne with the cross. Swan rising. Oh, and it's a goal kick. Brian Mooney might have been better positioned for that, as it was looping over the heads in the penalty area. Swan got a little touch. This was the earlier chance. Brian Mooney with a shot. Goff blocking it. Tommy Byrne. This is the path of Ryan. Bodekin tracking back. It's still John Ryan against Alan Goff. Oh, the crossbar. Missed kick by Neville. That was real opportunist stuff from John Ryan. Striker who knows what the goal is. Fabulous run into space. The shot that beat the keeper. Shelbourne saved by the bar. Sheridan trying to hold off Mullen. Advantage played. Bodekin on for Costello. He's men in the middle. The cross forcing Tony O'Connor into concession of the corner. Scully and Campbell up from the back. Commanding figure of Pat Scully. Bodekin has 5 white shirts at which to aim in there. Scully losing out to Henderson. The ball squirts free, and eventually Mooney clears. Gagan and McNeville. Now Costello. Sheridan wheels away right. Costello hoisting it in there again. Scully goes up once more. And that's off the crossbar again. Gagan hits there. And Stephen Gagan puts Shelbourne on terms 3 minutes from half-time. Bohemian's defence unhinged. Came back off the bar and forced in by the head of Stephen Gagan. Now Tommy Byrne. Swan with a shot. Fine save. Out of nothing. Derek Swan turning smartly across the face of Alan Goff, and a fine save by the goalkeeper. Sheridan trying to turn past McGrath, succeeding. It's come off call. Sheridan arriving again. And a rebound again off call, and in goes Morney. Well saved by Henderson. Sheridan. And Henderson gratefully gathering. Gagan. Morley got the touch. Gagan's in the back. He's offside. Swift and concise. Declan Gagan forward. Morley rising with the deftest of touches. But Stephen Gagan had just straight offside. Shelbourne beginning to stir. Mark Rutherford. Tony Sheridan. But the good challenge by Tony O'Connor. Declan Gagan again. Rutherford. He's come to Sheridan, and he involves Gagan, and they've men in the middle, Shelbourne. And Rutherford's there! And it's just over the top. Declan Gagan coming more and more into it as a provider up this left side. And the cross picked out Mark Rutherford at the near post, but the looping header went just too high. Sheridan. Right for Bodekin. The 2 front men are up, so too is Dave Campbell. Shelbourne breaking swiftly. That's towards Morley. And it's come through to Campbell. And he just couldn't get there in time. And that was another costly miss by Shelbourne. The goal gaping at his mercy. Scully. Sheridan. Morley. Advantage played. And Campbell with the shots, and Henderson down smartly to save. Got himself into position well on that occasion. Sheridan teeing it up nicely. Hit the target, but Henderson went down well to save it. Tommy Byrne. And that's the end of it all. And for the first time since September, Bohemians find themselves looking up at someone else at the end of a round of matches in the Hartlager National League. The 1 point they got here, not sufficient to dislodge Derry City, who took over from them last night. Stephen Gagan's goal 3 minutes from half-time, cancelling out the advantage they got after 27 seconds from Derek Swan. Turlough O'Connor's men off the top. Shelbourne with the chances to win it in the second, but they couldn't manage to convert them. So final score at Dalymount Park, Bows 1, Shells 1.
Well, it was always going to be a close affair, but that result will...
So hopefully more of the same this afternoon as we join George Hamilton for the team news.
In an unbeaten run of 7 takes Shelbourne to this match against Sligo Rovers. They're unchanged for the 6th successive time. Consistency of selection playing its part. They'll be looking to their top marksman Stephen Geoghegan, who got a goal last week to save the game against Bohemians, to hit the net again and get the points against Sligo. Sligo Rovers 2 new loan signings from Wrexham come into this week's team. Jimmy Mullen's second match in charge, Steve Butcher for Johnny Kenny, Lewis Cody for Donagh Oates. Alan O'Neill is back in goal for Nicky Brujos. Chris Twitty slips down as Pádraig Moran resumes wearing the number 8 shirt. Today's referee, leading an old Dublin team of officials, is Paddy Dempsey. Bodecan took up a good position. Sheridan. Still Tony Sheridan goes on. For Morley, how do you get it back to Sheridan? Good move by Shelbourne, good defending by Sligo. Mulligan now for Rovers. Good little build-up this by Shelbourne, but it was well defended by Steve Burks. Morley looking sharp for Shelbourne. It's crossed towards Geoghegan. A little touch there. It's in the net. Pat Morley gets the goal. It seemed the defenders' attention was distracted, and Alan O'Neill, watching man and not ball, it appeared, and Morley's cross becomes a goal. 9th minute of the game. Just watch as Pat Morley checks here, sends in the cross, a little bit of a nudge on Geoghegan as he went in, and that seemed to distract the goalkeeper, and in it went at the far post. Bodecan. Sheridan. Cross by Bodecan. Danger in front of that Sligo goal once more. Somewhat flawed on that occasion. Sligo with the possession back. James Mulligan being pulled by Neville. Free kick. And Mulligan taking it quickly. Scully there to cut it out. Onto it comes Cody. Scully again. Now Geoghegan. And Bodecan. Sheridan. Costello. Sheridan. Costello. And for Morley. Stepping over it, leaving it for Geoghegan. Sheridan, this is good. Give it and go stuff from Shelbourne. Campbell for Rutherford. Geoghegan, Declan that is, outside him. Rutherford intent on running the fullback cross, then checking. And Rutherford obstructed by cross, free kick. Now Rutherford will take this. 4 red shirts in there to threaten Alan O'Neill's goal. And Rutherford curling it, headed away then by Lynch. Moran. Mulligan. Cody beaten by Costello, who assumes the centre-half role when Scully goes forward for the free-kicker corner. Bodecan. Costello. And in Morley, no handball. Morley found the space. Geoghegan. Not the best of passes, that one. But now here's Declan Geoghegan. Having a look at the shot. And Alan O'Neill was watching it all the way, but it was worth a try. Not renowned as a goal scorer, unlike his brother, but he knows where the goal is. Costello. Geoghegan stepping over it. Morley back again for Geoghegan. He's gone down, and the referee said no penalty. That'll be worth having another look at. Lynch it was who collided with him. Costello, Geoghegan stepping over. Now watch the pair on the right. He was slipping, actually. I think maybe that's what the referee felt. He had already lost his footing and was on his way down before he actually collided with the Sligo man. So good refereeing by Paddy Dempsey. Now Sheridan. Rutherford. Nice cross. And he got the cross in. Misheader by Hutchinson. Vaudequin. That was all the way to the goal until it was cleared off the line. Good cross, that by Rutherford. Misheader by Hutchinson. Vaudequin, he really did well here with the effort. And Lynch got it away. Morley. Oh, beautifully spotted. Vaudequin on the run. Costello and Stephen Gagan in the middle. Calls for a good cross. Morley arriving. 2-0. Wonderful goal by Shelbourne at the start of the show. Pat Morley. He began the move by picking out Vaudequin, and it was he who was there when the cross came over the ball, arriving at the back post to plant it past O'Neill. Fabulous goal. Here's the first pass as Vaudequin runs in behind the defender into the corner. Had a little look to see who was there. Morley was arriving. That was the forward he picked out, and Pat Morley did the rest. At half-time at Tolka, Shelbourne 2, Sligo Rovers 0. Chips the keeper and puts it over the top. Well, clearly he felt confident enough to try and take the opportunity himself. But the finish was too high. Cross caught. Daydreaming. Rutherford in behind the defence. He two in the middle, as you see, but in attempting the exquisite chip, he got it slightly wrong. The opportunity's gone. Hugh. Cross. Taking the responsibility. Hutchinson. Costello. The better cross might have damaged Shelbourne. They really need to keep their concentration here. They may be 2 goals to the good, but they've let Sligo get back into this game. Gagan now. Sheridan. Rutherford 3 on the left. Only attacking from the right. And Gagan down the middle. Here he is. Sheridan once more, trying to curl one. Well, he scored a spectacular goal against Sligo at the showgrounds, and he was aiming to do something similar here. That was in the semi-final of the FAI Cup last season. From the other angle, but this time from the left side, having begun the move, he was there to at least attempt the finish. Teed up by Stephen Gagan. Trying to place it in that top corner. Opportunity here for Kenny. Cleared away by Campbell. Morley. Gagan getting in around the back, but Alan O'Neill saw the danger coming. Lynch. Sligo. The opportunity fell to Moran, but was well saved by Goff. Now here's Lynch again. Moran. Lynch once more. And it's Neville who gets it back. Gagan couldn't control it. Well, Alan Goff certainly saved Shelbourne, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the first real save he's had to make in the whole match. Corey Moran getting in, but the keeper spread himself well. Again, getting no change out of Scully, as has been the case all afternoon. And Neville. Vaudequin has room, and the 2 strikers in the middle, and Rutherford arriving as well. Vaudequin with a cross. Gagan. Deserved. And coming just 3 minutes from the end. And Shelbourne's top scorer, Stephen Gagan, gets his 9th league goal, his 11th at all for the season. And that really does gift wrap the 3 points for Shelbourne. Again, it was Vodacam who set up number 2 for Morley. Crossing with precision, and Gagan with a perfect volley to give Alan O'Neill no chance. The last action of the game. Shelbourne convincing winners, resuming third spot on the table, which they vacated briefly earlier in the weekend. These were the goals that did it for Shelbourne. Pat Morley's curler early on, just 9 minutes gone, and O'Neill deceived. Then the second, Morley began it, sent Vodacam away, and Morley finished it off precisely. And then, just 3 minutes from the finish, Vodacam again raiding up the right, picking out Gagan.
That was your big break, you being the saint. Who was Greavesy?
Go top if they won last night.
Declan Gagan. As ever, Shelbourne attempted to play the football. That's a great ball for Stephen Gagan. Harrington out. Oh! What a clumsy challenge, if clumsy isn't being generous to it. And referee Paul McKeown resisting the temptation to bring out the red. It's a yellow for Phil Harrington, the Cork City goalkeeper. And I think he's a touch fortunate with that. Here goes O'Connell. A little too high for the man in the middle, but Vodacam putting it behind. Defenders up for the corner. Here's Hill. Oh! What a finish! Dave Hill strikes goal for Cork. Just 10 minutes gone, and City take the lead. Corner whipped in. Nobody picked up Dave Hill, and that was as punishing a finish as you could wish for. Well, it's all Cork at this stage. Here's O'Connell. Men in the middle for him. Oh, and just knocked behind by Johnny Caulfield. Shelbourne defence being pulled this way and that. Cork in the ascendant. Here's Stephen Gagan, tempting and teasing Cronin. Vodacam offering the support. And the early cross. Baker with a header. And saved by Harrington. Desi Baker, his first start since joining the club from Manchester United. Gagan. On by Tilson. Baker. Seeking Gagan again. Nicely controlled. Baker's gone through the middle. And Gagan curling it. But the angle was just not quite right. Brian Flood. And Vodacam released with a fine ball. It's Baker peeling away. As always, the target's there for him, but good defending. And a corner kick is the outcome. Sheridan curling it. Oh, and Gagan getting in, but just putting it behind. In front of Phil Harrington. Shelbourne's and the league's top marksman. Flood. Gagan. So O'Connell trying to dispossess him. Tilson, that looked like a handball, and indeed it was. Sheridan in the gloves. That was Gagan trying to flick it, then in goes Scully! Oh! That has to go down as a chance. Pat Scully scored his first goal for the club last week, and not too far away from his second. Turning into a fine battle this. Sheridan on for Baker. Gagan's in the middle, and that's for him. Gagan! But the flag is up. That won't count. A wonderful finish by Stephen Gagan, but the linesman right in line. Close call, but he was absolutely right. Vodacam. Oh, well, the volley connected well, but the direction was not all that it might have been. Gagan. Vodacam. Leaving it for Costello. Made off by Baker. Vodacam once more. And Baker. And the City defence holding firm. Flood goes in. It's still there for Shelbourne. Lovely play by Baker. Sheridan. And Hartigan just got back to take it off his toe. The City defence, which has been well organised, doing its job once again. Baker. Oh, an audacious little chip. But Harrington was alert to the danger. But he really has looked a live wire. Foot was high from Brian Flood. Cork City's free kick. Taken by Hill. Here's Caulfield. Oh, a splendid finish by John Caulfield. And it's 2-0 Cork. Hill's free kick, knocked down by O'Connell, and a wonderful finish by Johnny Caulfield. And that puts him joint top of the scoring chart for Cork on 7 this season. Campbell's free kick, looking for Scully. And Scully again! Oh, Pat Scully's pulled one back. Scully pushed forward to try and redress the balance, taking advantage, and for the second time in a week, the big centre-half finds the net. And that 2-0 lead lasted just 3 minutes. Baker. Flood. Perceptive little ball, Gagan. Tempting and teasing Hill. Still Gagan. And that's a foul, surely. Yes. Paul McKeown points to the spot. Dave Hill protests. But a classic piece of striker's play. Holding up the ball, tempting and teasing the defender into the rash challenge. Down he goes, the little trip. Penalty shells, Costello for the equaliser. 2 in a row. Greg Costello's second consecutive penalty. And Shelbourne all square. And this match has some way to run. In goes Baker. And Desi Baker has put Shelbourne in front. His first start, his first goal, and Shelbourne lead 3-2. Did well there holding off Hill in ahead of Harrington, and this match has been turned on its head. Only a matter of minutes remaining now, and Cork City having led 2-0, now on the wrong end of a 3-2 scoreline. Here's the free kick, in goes O'Connell, and they pulled it right out of the fire. Damien O'Connell, who went into this match as Cork City's top scorer, strikes his 8th of the season with the deftest of glancing headers, and may well have salvaged the point.
I think we went 2-0 up, and I think, you know, fair dues to Shelbourne, they came at us and they threw everything at us, and you know, I think there was a couple of flick-ons and they got back into the game, but then they went 3-2 up, and it looked like we were after throwing it away. But having said that, we're after going 6 away trips this year, and we're after winning them all.
Chase on here, Ricky O'Flaherty. He's round. Oh, he's round the keeper. The ball isn't. The goalkeeper handled outside the box. McNeville pleads the case, but it's got to be red.
Yeah, he's got to go.
Had to go.
He's got to go.
Campbell. Dave Campbell again. Riley. Challenged by Duffy. Deemed to be a free kick. Eddie Gormley curling it. Oh, Flood. With a cross there, it's in. This is Stephen Gagan. With O'Rourke. And now Tony Sheridan. Sheridan still has the control, trying to lob the keeper. That is Shelbourne rescued, and there is no better way to do it.
Cheryl told me, he said to me, I'm going to get you a gold rocky, and he's done it for me. And he's different class, that boy, different class.
Gormley's corner. He's done it again. And Pats take the lead. So here we go, Sheridan's through. In. Here's Morris Rowe in behind Costello. Costello, that has to be a penalty. It's Eddie Gormley against Alan Goff. And the hero. What a wonderful save. And he's round Campbell, and he's got Gagan through the middle, and that's meant for Gagan. Carpenter back to defending. Stephen Gagan! It's Shelbourne's Cup for the 5th time in their history.
Well, can Shelbourne do it for a 6th time? Fittingly, we begin our coverage of this year's campaign with the holders, who met Cork non-league side Everton last night at Talca Park. 9 of Everton's 17-strong squad were down with flu coming into the game, but it didn't stop them giving the champions a fright. Lyle Nugent reports.
Holders Shelbourne got off to the perfect start against non-league Everton last night when after 7 minutes Pascal Vaudecan's cross found the head of Mark Rutherford. He provided the sweetest of finishes. If Everton were sick prior to the match, the prognosis was now even bleaker. A sweet cross from Vaudecan and Rutherford's header gave John Kearns no chance. 9 minutes later it was 2-0. Pat Morley dealt all too easily with the Everton defence. The finish was quite brilliant. Pat Brown gave Morley just an inch too much room. The finish was exquisite. Again, John Kearns in the Everton goal could do little about that. Into the second half, and Shelbourne now looked to be coasting. Just 2 minutes had passed when Everton's midfield and defence stood back and gifted the holders their third. Tony Sheridan could have done the job himself, but he laid it off for Stephen Gagan, who tapped in to make it 3-0. All too easy for the Premier Division side. Tony Sheridan racing through the midfield unmarked. And really, Stephen Gagan could do little else but score. Everton seemed to step up a gear thereafter and on 62 minutes got a justly deserved goal of their own. Austin O'Connor had time in the Shell's box. His cross picked out Kieran Nagel and he finished emphatically. O'Connor getting in behind the Shelbourne defence, and Kieran Nagel will remember this finish for many a day. 9 minutes later and there was an uneasy feeling for the home support at Talca Park when Fergal Giltonen tried his luck from 30 yards. Alan Goff will have felt he should have done better, but Everton were back in the game. Giltonen, the former Cork City player, unleashing a ferocious shot. Shelbourne goalkeeper Alan Goff just didn't get down quick enough. So then 3-2, and Talca Park was slightly on edge, but they needn't have been, for the holders came back with a fourth that sealed the game. Sheridan and then Rutherford in midfield created the opportunity. Desi Baker, the substitute, provided the finish. A certain sense of relief around Talca Park after quite a good comeback in the second half from Everton. The winning goal, though, provided by Rutherford, finished by Baker, and Shelbourne go through with a 4-2 win.
Well, last year's beaten finalists, St. Patrick's Athletic, they were at home to the first.
When Shelbourne and Bray met in the league in October, a Stephen Gagan hat-trick and a goal from Pat Morley gave Shells a convincing 4-0 win at the Carlisle ground. But they certainly weren't as dominant last night, particularly in a relatively poor, if even, first half, during which Pat Scully came closest to breaking the deadlock. The opportunity came his way in the 25th minute. Sheridan's corner going all the way to Pascal Vaudecan. Then he picked out Pat Scully, whose header seemed destined for the net, but for a wonderful saving header by Pat O'Brien. And the cross was sweetly struck by Vaudecan. Scully picked the right spot, but O'Brien doing really well despite Morley's presence. Bray had their chances too, the bumpy surface contributing to Mark Rutherford's missed clearance. Then Alan Smith and Tarzan combined in the box before Justin Dutton got the opportunity to swing in the cross, and Robbie Coyle was unlucky not to make better contact with the header. Bray's player of the year last season coming close to opening the scoring. Well, good defending doesn't normally get the credit it deserves, but a fine example of the art coming up here. Pat O'Brien putting Tarzan O'Brien clear, but he was tracked all the way by Dave Campbell, and the tackle was perfectly timed in what is always a very precarious position. The Shelbourne started the second half playing the best football of the game, and when Mark Rutherford picked out Stephen Gagan in the 47th minute, a goal seemed inevitable, but John Walsh in the Bray goal spread himself well to make the save. Gagan, normally deadly from this sort of position, possibly put off by the presence of Maurice Farrell. The keeper did well, though. There was very little the Bray back line could do about the next attempt from Geoghegan. A speculative cross from Mark Rutherford was headed down by Bodekan, and Geoghegan, showing a real striker's instinct, found the top corner to give Shells the lead. Bodekan heading it down, and even with his back to goal, Stephen Geoghegan made something out of nothing. Excellent goal. Shelbourne by no means ran away with it after that, but Mark Rutherford had a good chance in the 22nd minute of the second half. But again, John Walsh showed good reflexes in making the save.
It was a great goal, but it was I mean, it could have went anywhere, and you know, it went right into the top corner. Up to that, I felt maybe we could get something out of it. Disappointing not to get something out of it, but I must say we're coming here against the best team, one of the best teams in the league. And player for player, obviously they're much more experienced, so very pleased with my lads.
The old cliche there is that you can play like that and win. It's very encouraging sign. I don't necessarily go along with that train of thought. I think you have to try and play well, because you have to entertain people. Bray Wanderers came here tonight and have done the homework. Were very negative, which I don't blame them for. They were on the table, points are precious to them. If they come to try and stop us playing everywhere, they're man-mad people. Two things have to overcome that. First of all, our own performance, our own level of performance, and their belief in our ability. We didn't have enough of that tonight. Anytime we got away from the man-to-man mark, and anytime we got away from the close mark, and we didn't release the ball early enough. So we were first of all at fault for not allowing the game to flow. We didn't make it flow. And you can't say the team stopped your flow. We're good enough to make the flow, and we didn't make the flow. Some of us wanted to indulge themselves. Secondly, I have to say, the referee, I don't think did us any favours, because I think it's a very difficult job for the referee, I accept, to come in and referee a game like that. But if you allow people to stand over the ball, to stop quick free kicks being taken, to stop the flow of ball, then that helps the away side, that helps the negative aspect of the game flourish. And really, we have to entertain people. We've got supporters here, brave squad, they have to be entertained, and I don't think we entertained this evening. And that's a very, very big disappointment to me.
Also during the week it was announced that you're taking over as manager of the National League selection, and you've got a few games coming up, so it's going to be a very busy time for you.
Well, I mean, I was as surprised as anybody when I was appointed. I think maybe it must be the 10-year service or the 11-year service or whatever. But the good thing for me is it does give me the opportunity to pick the best players. What I would like to do and maybe approach it is that for the particular game at the Foxhall Commons, I will go for the most, what I would think, the best players in the league. But for the second game, I think maybe with the B team, I think we'll go for Irish-based players. That's my feeling on it, but I will be discussing it later on in the week with the FAI. But I'm looking forward to it. It's a very little challenge, and I mean, I'm very, very involved as it is, Peter, so I mean, an extra 3 games is not going to make a slightest difference.
Well, we have confirmation.
Derby between St. Patrick's Athletic and Shelbourne. And forward to the big game this weekend between Derry City and Shelbourne.
Hearts desperately needed a morale-boosting win, having lost 2 of their last 3 league games, and made an early exit from the cup at the hands of non-league wayside Celtic.
Bohemians' title challenge may have waned slightly of late, but they started well against Finn Harps last night. Derek Swan's probing shot in the 5th minute signalled their intentions. Well, Bohemians kept the momentum going in the early stages, and 5 minutes after that, the build-up to the first goal began with Owen Mullen picking out Peter Hanrahan. His shot was blocked, but the ball fell to Brian Mooney. His strike came back off the crossbar, but the danger wasn't over there. Tommy Byrne kept the attack going. Derek Swan putting pressure on Conor Frawley in the aerial battle, and Owen Mullen adjusted his footing well to volley the ball past Darren Nash. Well, as you see here in the replay, plenty of Finn Harps players back, but nobody picking up Owen Mullen, and he knew exactly where he was putting that one. 1-0 to Bohemians. A couple of minutes later, Mullen threatened the Finn Harps goal once again. The move beginning wide on the right with Swan and Mooney. A nicely flighted cross, and again Mullen completely unmarked, but the header this time going the wrong side of the upright. The Bohemians number 10 unable on that occasion to take advantage of some very slack defending. So 1-0 it stood at half-time, a somewhat precarious lead at the best of times, but in the 70th minute, Derek McGraw's darting run was halted illegally by Andy Ramage, and Bohemians had another chance from the resulting free kick. That was a rather rash challenge by the former Sligo Rovers player. Watch Derek Swan making some space, dragging his marker out of the wall, and Tommy Byrne's strike, perfectly executed, left Nash flat-footed. Placing and trajectory the key here as Byrne for Bohemians 2 up. It should have been comfortable for the home side from there on in, but 5 minutes from time, a rather innocuous challenge by James Call on Jonathan Speake resulted in a free kick to Finn Harps. And once again, the dead ball situation provided the route to goal. Unlikely that this next one had been rehearsed on the training ground up in Ballybofey. Stuart Gold floating it in, and the ball appeared to come off Tommy Byrne before nestling in the back of the net. A free kick being taken from not the most threatening of positions, but anything can happen in a crowded goalmouth, and it did. Off Byrne's head, Henderson got a touch, but he couldn't keep it out. And so the home supporters were on the edge of their seats once again. Could the visitors now snatch a late equaliser? The answer to that, a resounding no, as the very next Bohemians attack eventually led to their third goal. Ryan Mooney could and possibly should have scored there, but he waited too long, and Minutes' challenge was timely and effective. But once again, Hearts were the authors of their own downfall. No apparent danger here as the ball was cleared to Stuart Gold, but a dreadful pass only found a Bohemian's foot, the ball eventually running to Peter Hanrahan, and he punished that mistake in the most emphatic fashion. Final score at Dalymount Park, Bohemians 3, Finn Harps 1.
And confirmation of that result there. Also in the Premier Division last night, Dundalk and UCD drew 2-2 at Oriel Park. Joe Gallen scoring twice for the home side, while Robbie Griffin and Jason Caldwell were on the mark for UCD. In the First Division, Waterford United moved up to third place with a 3-0 victory over Athlone Town. So let's check on the tables right now. Well, Bohemians' win at Dalymount Park last night brings them back to within 2 points of Derry City at the top of the Premier Division table, but they've now played 21 games to Derry City's 19. Home farm Everton moved off the bottom following their draw with Sligo on Wednesday, but they've a lot of work to do to bridge the gap between themselves and Shamrock Rovers, who have slipped to third from bottom, with Dundalk having picked up that point last night. And just a quick look now on the top of the First Division as it stands. Still plenty of football to be played this weekend, remember. With Waterford United, they're up to third for the moment on 22 points, but it's Drogheda United still setting the pace in the race for promotion from Division 1, and they play Cove later today. Well, on Tuesday night, St Patrick's Athletic faced Shelbourne in Richmond Park, and in the true tradition of Dublin derbies, the game proved to be full of incident and not short on excitement. Stephen Alkin reports.
One of St Pat's biggest crowds of the season saw a poor performance by the home side in the first half. Combined errors by Gormley, Carroll and McDonald gave Stephen Gagan the game's first chance. Brian McKenna produced an excellent save. 8 minutes later, Tony Sheridan's perfect through ball saw Pat Morley in the clear between McDonald and Moody. Again, McKenna showed his ability as a shot stopper. It was all Shelbourne at this stage, and they deservedly took the lead. Their goal was typical of their excellent approach work in the first half. Excellent passing at pace. Sheridan's cross eventually dispatched by Gagan, but watch how Declan Gagan came into the attack. Laid back by Morley to Tony Sheridan, and there was Stephen Gagan with the perfect header. St Pat's will be wondering where was their defence. It was Pat Morley who set up Sheridan, but you can't give any player that kind of room, least of all the league's top scorer. 4 minutes from the interval and St Pat's rose from their slumbers. Vodachan gave the ball away to Glynn. Jason Byrne found the space to get behind the defence for once, though his cross didn't find a red shirt. Riley and Gormley kept up the pressure. And Byrne's second cross was only half cleared by Costello. Ozam's shot came out to Glynn, and he scored his first league goal of the season, which certainly made Con Houlihan a happy man. And here's why. Shelbourne's defence never recovered their composure after Vodachan gave the ball away. Ozam did well to keep his shot down, and Declan Gagan's clearance was gleefully dispatched by Glynn. St Pat's on terms against the run of play. In the second half, Greg Costello, booked earlier, should have been sent off for lashing out at Glynn. And minutes later, Trevor Crawley received the red card for his second caution for that challenge on Stephen Gagan. One of many decisions which mystified the players of both sides. In a game of this intensity, there has to be physical contact. Mr. McArdle wouldn't allow any last Tuesday. St Pat's produced a typical 10-man performance after that, putting 9 men behind the ball as Shells looked for the winner. Scully's dive and the pressure from Moody didn't win any friends, and from that Pats nearly scored. Ozam did well to find Byrne, and he was clear on goal with only Goff to beat, and he should have done better, to say the least. Shelbourne's best chance in the closing stages fell to Sheridan. Scully's header, helped on by Vodachan, and the shot was brilliantly saved by McKenna. Stalemate then in Richmond Park, where Derry City were the only winners.
And of course tonight, Derry City and Shelbourne meet at Brandywell in what is without question one of the most important league games of the season so far. The last time Derry City lost at home was to Cork City on October the 19th, a week before they last played Shelbourne. and that game turned out to be a thrilling 2-all draw. Well, before
At the Brandywell last night, it took Derry City just 9 minutes to breach the Shelbourne defence. Gavin Dykes headed on Tommy Dunn's free kick, and when Shelbourne keeper Alan Goff failed to gather, Sean Hargan pounced to put Derry City in front. But Shelbourne struck back after 22 minutes. Tony Sheridan's in-swinging corner evaded O'Dowd, and Pat Scully was there to level the score. With just a minute gone in the second half, Scully was on the mark again. This time he headed Richie Purdy's corner into his own net. Derry on top again. Shelbourne pushed for the equaliser and dominated the second half with their typically attractive interpassing. Gavin Dykes' missed kick from Pat Morley's cross nearly allowed Scully in for another goal, but O'Dowd came to the rescue. The equaliser came with just 5 minutes to go. The usual suspects were instrumental in creating the opening. Sheridan, Rutherford and ex-Derry City player Pascal Vaudecan, on his first visit back to the Brandywell since signing for Shelbourne, he set Stephen Geoghegan up for a shot, which Pat Morley guided home. Final score at the Brandywell, Derry City 2, Shelbourne 2. Shelbourne kept their championship hopes alive on Saturday night with a good victory over home farm Everton. The first goal came after 24 minutes. Pat Morley linking up with Pascal Vaudecan. Vaudecan's cross ricocheted onto the post, but there was the ever-alert Stephen Geoghegan to put Shelbourne 1-0 up. 12 minutes later, Shelbourne were at it again with a goal worthy of any league. Once again, Pascal Vaudecan was involved. He played a nice 1-2 here with Tony Sheridan. Whipping in the cross once again and beautifully dispatched to the net by Pat Morley. 2-0 to Shelbourne. They're very much in the title chase.
Whittles down, and the goal is scored by Brian Byrne. Ten minutes gone. Dundalk's first attack of menace. Prizeman lofted it in. It was Whitnell here who made it difficult. Goff punched it, and Byrne found the angle and delivered a fearsome shot. Whitnell went in, the keeper was put under all sorts of pressure, he went with the fists, it went straight to Byrne. What about this for a finish though? Knew exactly what he was doing and hammered it powerfully home for his 4th of the season. Taken by Sheridan, Geoghegan's in, oh it is an own goal of Tom McNulty. Dundalk's veteran defender under pressure from this free kick from Sheridan. Geoghegan went in. Morley on the near post, and at last touched McNulty. Geoghegan will claim it, but it's a Tom McNulty own goal in the 20th minute. Stephen Geoghegan does in fact claim that goal as his 16th of the season. Well, I think the replay showed conclusively at last touched Tom McNulty, and that was the crucial deflection that took it beyond Fridge. Vaudecan, and here's Stephen Geoghegan, and it's Vaudecan once more, and across towards Morley. Well, he rose between Prizeman and McNulty, but he couldn't direct his header onto the goal. Good cross from Vaudecan, and Morley got in between the defenders as he's so good at doing, but it went past the upright. McNulty, Hanrahan, but Gallen levels out of the middle. Whitnell should be onto this, and he is, holding off Sheridan. And Whitnell then for Hanrahan. And Hanrahan with another big cross. Byrne at the back. Turning Geoghegan, still it's Byrne. Trying to slot one through and put behind by Sheridan. And a corner to Dundalk. Well, it was a couple of corners that led to Brian Byrne's opening goal for Dundalk. And these big crosses from the like of Hanrahan causing serious problems for the Shelbourne defence. Byrne shimmied rather well out here, round Geoghegan, and then tried to thread one through. and Sheridan put it behind. Near post, oh, beautiful glancing header by Joe Gallen that just went inches wide. Lovely corner, and at the near post, Gallen got there ahead of Flood, but it just went wide. And Rutherford taking on Prizeman. Rutherford with the cross. McNulty, and Fridge makes the save. Good pacey run from Mark Rutherford. Took on Prizeman and beat him. The cross was threatening. McNulty got ahead on it, and Fridge went up to save. And in fact, that's the last action of the first half. Brian Byrne with the opening goal. Equalised by Stephen Gagan's effort, deflected into his own net by Tom McNulty. Half-time, it's a goal apiece. Oh, and he missed his kick completely. And now it's Gallen. Whitnell taking on Scully. Whitnell has the little look. There's no one there for him. Now there is. Devereux has arrived. And that's come off Neville. And has gone for the corner. But the best the Duck could expect out of that, because they didn't have men far enough forward. Now it's Hanrahan once more. Gallen with the goalkeeper. It's gone to Gallen. It's there. And Joe Gallen, the Ducks' top scorer, puts them back in front. And the sizable travelling contingent from Louth are absolutely delighted. Exactly as it was in the first half, in the 10th minute. And they get the goal. Beautiful corner from Hanrahan. Lovely glancing header from Gallen. And it's 2-1 to Dundalk. A hat-trick in the first round replay. But watch him here, ahead of Flood, who wasn't really marking him correctly, giving Goff no chance. Now, Sheridan's free kick. Morley's header! Off the post and cleared and in! Oh, it is in! It's a goal! It's been awarded by the linesman. And they get their equaliser in the most dramatic and confusing of fashions. That goal awarded by Joe O'Brien, the linesman. Free kick was taken by Sheridan. Morley glanced the header. It came back off the upright with Fridge beaten. Doohan cleared it, and it rebounded off the goalkeeper Fridge. So a second own goal for Dundalk, and Shelbourne are level. I don't think Dundalk can have any complaints about this. Morley got the header on. It came back off the woodwork. They were all over the place. Mick Doohan particularly unfortunate because he had got it away, but off the goalkeeper it went, and then there, it was over the line. Vodacan, Sheridan. Vodacan again. Oh, and Fridge forced to dive bravely at the feet of Rutherford. Him squirting across that penalty area. Vodacan sent it in. Nasty little bounce it took there, eluding McNulty and Gagan. Rutherford was coming, and Fridge made the save. Neville. Doohan again there, and McNulty. And Neville. Hanrahan. Scully came for that. It's come to Byrne, though. Well, it was meant for Gallen, but Gallen wasn't going at that kind of pace. No, McNulty couldn't get there. Morley's in there still, and Rutherford! And Mark Rutherford, following up, puts Shelbourne in front for the first time in the 72nd minute. The long clearance from Goff. McNulty rose for it with Gagan, couldn't make the contact. Then it was Morley against Doohan, and they couldn't quite get there either. It bounced off Morley, and Rutherford was there to hook it past Fridge. Fifth goal of the season for Mark Rutherford. It really rebounded from Morley, but Rutherford, quick thinking and agility, beat Fridge, and the Dundalk go behind for the first time. must be feeling a little happier now, Damien Richardson. Different kind of performance from his team, as it had to be in the tradition of cup ties. But a win's a win if it turns out to be that. Here's Hoey, on for his first appearance in the cup, first appearance of the season. Now Burns. Good ball for Devereux. Gallen's in the middle. It's gone all the way across. And Hanrahan's retrieved it. Hanrahan, oh, straight at Goff. Well, still great support for Dundalk. But can they achieve an improbable breakthrough in the final 13 minutes? Hanrahan and Hewitt and Gallen dispossessed by Scully at the expense of a throw. Ten minutes to go. Shelbourne lead Dundalk 3-2. And that was Hewitt, and that's goal kick. Oh, no offside here. It's Gagan in behind the defence. Stephen Gagan, and brilliantly parried by Fridge. And they've got to get it away out of there, and they've managed it. McNulty, in the end, did so. Suspicions, more than suspicions, of offside about that, but Joe O'Brien kept the flag down. Gagan went through the middle, and Fridge made a fine stop. Now it's Devereux. Byrne making some room for himself. Gallen takes the responsibility. But then they've made it difficult for themselves. Doohan. Still he battles on, and it finds its way through to goalkeeper Alan Goff. Here it was, in behind the defence, Stephen Gagan. Fridge came out to narrow the angle. He's a good shot stopper, this fella, and he did it again. But then they confused themselves, and McNulty was forced to scramble it away. Gagan. That's on for Sheridan. Oh, he's picked out Morley. Set up for Gagan. Oh. Well, pick that one out. That's the cup holders safely through now. And after living dangerously, they score the goal of the match. Stephen Gagan set up by his striking partner, Pat Morley. Sheridan's cross. Morley set it up. And that is as fine a finish as you'll ever see. If ever there was any doubt, there's no more now. Morley knew precisely what he was doing, teeing it up for Gagan, and that nearly burst the net. Goal number 16 of the season for the National League's top scorer. And Shelbourne, the cup holders, are well and truly through. Damien, they made it very difficult for you.
Yes, they did. I expected nothing less from Dundalk. The 3 games we played, including this one this season, they've run us right to the wire. We won by an odd goal in the previous 2 encounters. And even though they had a depleted squad today, I was under no illusions. And they came out and through to form, they pushed us right to the very end. And they provided a very big part of what I thought was a very enjoyable cup tie.
It was certainly that. Funny thing about it, the first goal that a Shelbourne player scored was the one that put you in front for the first time, 3-2.
Yes, at the end of it, I don't care who scores a shot. Once we're in the quarterfinal, that's all I'm concerned about. I felt, from our point of view, again, we didn't flow. We didn't play a normal type of football. To Dundalk's credit, perhaps they stopped us doing that. But in saying that, we kept at it. And from this part of the season now, nerves are going to play a big part. And in a cup game where all the other teams qualified already, we want to be the last ones in. Dundalk want to in the quarterfinals. And it's very important that you retain your nerve. And wherever the game demands, you come up with the requirements.
Well, now, unbeaten since October, 2nd in the league and in the quarterfinals of the cup. Not bad.
Not bad, very enjoyable. It's what we do from here on in that counts. I said to the players before the game, we've only had the prelude so far. The finale is coming, and we have to be up there right and ready for the finale. And if we show the spirit we show today, if we play...
This was definitely in the air in Tolka Park on Valentine's night. A heart-stopping game and plenty of goals. The first fell for Tony Cousins after 10 minutes. Rovers into a surprise lead. And Cousins was on the mark again 7 minutes later when John Toll put him clear on goal, leaving Gough with no chance. 2-0 Rovers. Back came Shelbourne, Tony Sheridan finding Frenchman Pascal Vaudecan out wide, and he crossed for Pat Morley to head home. Shelbourne back in the game. Rovers wasted little time in restoring their 2-goal lead. Sean Francis crossed for Tony Cousins, who earned the match ball for his hat-trick. Astonishingly, Rovers extended their lead 5 minutes before the break. The Shelbourne defence were caught square, allowing John Toll to net their 4th of the half. In the second half, Shelbourne stepped up a gear, Tony Sheridan providing the cross for Pat Morley to score a replica of his first, 4-2. An extraordinary comeback looked to be on the cards when Morley and Gagan combined to create Morley's third and the game's second hat-trick, 4-3. Just as Shelbourne began to hope again, Rovers struck once more. Pat Fenlon's initial shot was blocked by a combination of Gough and the upright, but Fenlon made no mistake with the second. 5-3 to Rovers with 13 minutes left. Seconds later, Rovers moved further ahead. Mark Kenny's free kick evading everyone except Sean Francis, who put Rovers 6-3 up. Some wonderful skill from ex-Manchester United player Desi Baker was a fitting way to end such an incredible game. Final score, Shamrock Rovers 6, Shelbourne 4.
Second spot. Both sides needing all 3 points to keep the pressure on Derry in the race for the FAI Harplager National League Championship. Here's how the teams lined out.
Shelbourne had gone 16 matches unbeaten since October before losing the 10-goal extravaganza here to Shamrock Rovers last Friday night. 2 changes in that side. One of them brings in Desi Baker for Dave Smith. He'll play wide on the right with Pascal Vaudecan going to right back. Pat Scully, the influential centre-half, is suspended. His place goes to the former St Patrick's Athletic man Dave Campbell, who scored twice against Shelbourne in the 2 cup final matches last season, but has been used here more as a midfield man than a centre-half. Bohemians have had only 1 defeat in their last 8 matches, and that run has taken them into the quarter-finals of the Cup and back into second place at Shelbourne's expense. The top scorer, Derek Swan, has scored in each of the last 2 games between these sides. Bohemians unchanged from last week when they had a 1-0 home success over Cork City. And who should have scored in that? Derek Swan. This Dublin derby has an all-Dublin team of match officials led by John McDermott. The linesmen or assistant referees, John Ward on the dugout side and Joe O'Brien on the near. Bohemians in their change colours of canary yellow and blue. Tolka Park pitch obviously showing the effects of being home to 2 Premier Division teams. Shelbourne last week when they lost 6-4 to Shamrock Rovers were technically the away side. Bohemians, with both James Call and Robbie Best injury victims, have a rather unusual look about them at the back. The central defenders in this lineup are 2 normal wide players, Kevin Brady and Donald Browan, who had a long spell out through injury. Now Baker. Gagan stepping over it, so too, unfortunately for him, did Morley. Now it's Browan. A nice little shimmy beating Flood, and the flag has gone up. Free kick from Neville was not a particularly good one. Mullen away. And then Swan. Gaynor. Doolan. Tommy Byrne. Hustling and harrying by Shelbourne, and Bohemians not given time to settle. And a missed kick there by Dave Henderson. Into the crowd it went. Throw to Shelbourne. Sheridan. Rutherford. Sheridan again. Oh! And Gagan! Well, that was a close call. He was their top league goal scorer until Pat Morley's hat-trick last week. But Stephen Gagan, really well might he hold his head. He did so well to get in, left the defence for dead, but the shot just lacked the accuracy.
Burn able to bring it away. Hatman cut out by Neville. And Rutherford's onside. Gagan's through the middle. Morley arriving too. And Rutherford can deliver the good crosses. And he's found the head of Gagan. And Morley just couldn't get there. That's another miss by Shelbourne. Here's Baker back for Vaudequin. And Pascal Vaudequin still going on. Gagan. And that's gone out. But a great attack that was by Shelbourne. Rutherford timed his run superbly, beat the offside trap. He'd two in the middle when he crossed, and the big ballooning cross found the head of Gagan, but Morley just couldn't connect with a knockdown. Slid through for Gagan, nice little flick off for Morley. Donald Browan's doing the marking job with Pat Morley, and I must say, so far he's been effective. Oh, here's danger, Swan's in, and he's pushed it wide. One of those things that comes right out of nothing. The big long clearance, and suddenly Swan was in the clear. And you'd back the top goal scorer in circumstances like that, but on this occasion he put it wide. That's a really good attendance for this Friday night Dublin derby. And McGrath. Gaynor couldn't quite control it. It's Vaudequin. Oh, Browan put it up in the air nicely for Gagan. A Gagan shot, just wide. And it took a deflection. The defender recovered his error. Well, he was in command of the situation, Donald Browan, at least so it appeared. But when he went up to head it, he only presented it for Stephen Gagan. As Shelbourne's top scorer, well, he got the shot in, but Browan had recovered. That's Campbell in the way. Now Sheridan and Vaudequin. Sheridan again. Baker, Sheridan, Morley, and Sheridan once more. Good football this from Shelbourne. Baker trying the cross, rebounding for Brady. Corner. Well, that was well worked by Shelbourne. Some nice passing up the touchline. And they've got themselves a corner out of it. Sheridan with it. Campbell saved on the line by Henderson. Well, he had a little bet on himself in the cup final last year that he'd be first to score. On both occasions he won. Final and replay. I wonder, did he have a little wager tonight? Came close enough with that effort from the corner. Snapshot for the edge of the box, Dave Campbell. Saved by Henderson. Kagan and chase, and Henderson losing his footing and then having to head it away. Now Mooney. They all count, Dave, don't they? He's paid to keep him out, and it doesn't matter what part of him does so. Sheridan for Morley. Now it's Tommy Byrne. And we made a bit of a mess of that. But that was bizarre. Long ball played through for Stephen Gagan. Henderson was there to cover, and at the crucial moment he lost his footing. But he's paid to keep him out, and he did. Two number 5s together, but one of them's a centre forward. But it's the defensive 5 who gets it away, Dave Campbell. It's Derek McGrath, and he jumped at Morley. And the reason was that Morley was taking unfair advantage himself. The free kick's been awarded against the former Cork man. Taken quickly, in goes Gaynor. Goff's lost it. McGrath has got the cross there. Swan couldn't connect. Gaynor! Offside flag has been raised though. Tommy Gaynor has the goal ruled out. Well, they were in some difficulty there, Shelbourne. Derek McGrath's cross. Swan tried the effort. And Goff didn't cover himself in glory, but Gaynor, when he finished it off, was offside. Two strikers in there on the right. Warren Parks and John Ryan, and Shawnee Maher, teenager, still awaiting his first call to arms by Turlough O'Connor, centre back. Morley. Doolan. Swan's in this time, he's onside, but it was a tame enough effort at the finish. That was a good chance for Bohemians. Scored in the two previous meetings this season. Derek Swan knows he should have done better with that.
beat the offside trap, in on Goff, but the lob was ineffective. Byrne. Neville holding off Swan. Now Sheridan and Flood together. Sheridan involving Bodekin, who loves to get forward. Bodekin's cross, in goes Gagan. And Morley couldn't quite connect. The Bohemians get it away. Warren Parks about to make his entrance. And Tommy Gaynor's gone off. He makes his entrance with 13 minutes to go. And might conceivably be deemed a lucky omen by his manager, Turlough O'Connor, like the manager, an Athlone lad. Here's Brown to take the free kick. It's Mooney. Oh, what a goal! Well, Brian Mooney pulls one right out of the top drawer and could well have sunk Shelbourne's championship challenge in the process. Donald Browan's free kick, superbly flighted into the box. He really is a marvellous strike of a dead ball. And when that came to Mooney, well, the finish was exquisite. Mullen. You have the impression if Alex Ferguson was managing Bohemians, he'd be apoplectic by this stage. But Turlough O'Connor relatively phlegmatic as injury time ticks on and Shelbourne go in search of an equaliser. Pascal Bodekin, Dave Campbell, Doolan hoofing it clear. A look at the watch from John McDermott. Still no sign that he's intent on blowing, or is there? Yes, there is, because that's the final action at Tonka Park. And the question now needs to be asked, are there now only two? Bohemians keeping pace with Derry City. Turlough O'Connor's team winning thanks to Brian Mooney being swamped by the fans there. At the start of the season, this was not a centre-half pairing we'd expect to see, but Donald Rowan and Owen Mullen as close together.
Pole position since the end of November, interestingly following their earlier win over Waterford. At the top of the Premier Division, Bohemians keeping the pressure on Derry, 4 points adrift, having played a game more. Shelbourne will do well to produce a very special run-in if they're to mount
against Sligo Rovers.
Showgrounds have proved a happy hunting ground for Shelbourne in recent years, and that proved to be the case last night. They opened their account after 17 minutes. Nicky Bruges misjudging Sheridan's corner, Pat Scully finding the back of the net. The home side went 2 behind 8 minutes before the break. Brian Flood's deep cross found Mark Rutherford on the far post, and Pat Morley was there to knock it home. Sligo's hopes of a second-half comeback were finally laid to rest midway through the half. Stephen Gagan with this expertly struck volley. Final score at the Showgrounds, Rovers 0, Shelbourne 3.
Shelbourne tried to get today's quarter-final postponed, and manager Damien Richardson was annoyed at the decision to go ahead, as he reckoned too many of his players were on representative duty in Wales. Whoever was the cup holders who started the better, and Dave Campbell went close from a Tony Sheridan corner. Sheridan was again the supplier, this time to Mark Rutherford, but the Shells number 11 shot narrowly wide. Shell's pressure finally yielded a goal on the quarter hour. Again a Sheridan corner, headed back powerfully by Pat Scully to Pat Morley, who scored in 15 minutes. Morley almost made it 2-0 on the half hour. A fine piece of individual play by Rutherford found Morley with his back to goal, and his flick almost deceived John Walsh in the Bray goal. Bray's best effort of the half in the game came 9 minutes before the break. Robbie Coyle found the unmarked Richie Parsons, who advanced on goal, but put his effort narrowly wide. Shells eased off somewhat in the second half, and this chance for Coyle was the best the home side could muster, as the cup holders went through to the last 4 on a 1-0 scoreline.
Derry City. Going into today's game, Cork was still very much in the hunt for a UEFA Cup spot, and victory for them could have finally put paid to Shelbourne's championship hopes. John Caulfield's cross here finding Brian Barry Murphy, but he failed to find the target. Shelbourne moved the ball well around the pitch, the Cork defence here having trouble dealing with Mick Neville's long ball. Stephen Geoghegan put his namesake Declan away down the wing, and his cross was knocked away to safety by Barry Murphy. But from the resulting corner, Shells managed to snatch a goal through Paul Campbell from close range. Approaching the final whistle, Shells almost grabbed a second goal.
Just 2 minutes gone when that goal went in, but Finn Harps caused Shelbourne problems, and Mick Neville's foul coming up on Kieran O'Kane gave them a penalty late in the first half. Cue some goalkeeping heroics by Alan Goff. He brilliantly saved Stuart Gould's spot kick, and the rebound was eventually cleared by Dave Campbell. Shortly after the break, the points were secure for Shells. Tony Sheridan's free kick, headed down by Pat Scully. Pat Morley's 15th of the campaign keeps him just one ahead of his striking partner. Stephen Geoghegan was released to play in this vital game for Shelbourne, and Mick McCarthy and Packy Bonner and some of the Irish players were there to see him. And what a start it was for Stephen. Just 40 seconds on the clock, and his volley was blocked by Gareth Byrne. The move coming up, the chest kill from Pat Morley, the volley there from Geoghegan, and the follow-up chance which fell to Desi Baker was stopped by a combination of Packy Lynch and Keith Long, who just about managed to keep the St. Pat's goal intact. Great early pressure from Shelbourne as they look for the vital 3 points. Geoghegan was very influential in the first half as he and Pat Morley kept the St. Pat's defence guessing. An excellent Shelbourne move on 10 minutes saw Tony Sheridan shoot over. 5 minutes from the break, Shells made the breakthrough. Mark Rutherford's progress was stopped along the wing by Trevor Crawley, the number 8. St. Pat's playing very deep in the first half and allowing Shelbourne to dictate the pace of the game. From Baker's corner kick, Gareth Byrne and Paul Ozam left Pat Scully with a free header, and Shells were seemingly on their way to the 3 points. But the loss of Pat Morley at half-time had a huge bearing on Geoghegan's influence in the second half as St. Pat's came more into the game. Paul Campbell's cross caused confusion in the Shells' defence, and Jason Byrne should have equalised. Declan Geoghegan to the rescue for Shelbourne, who made it very hard work indeed trying to clear this one away. It was a patchy performance by the Reds, it has to be said. Desi Baker took over up front instead of Pat Morley, and he was probably the best player in the second half. Here he catches Paul Ozam in possession. Went round the outside of Packy Lynch like he wasn't there, and then forced Gareth Byrne into an excellent save. But as long as St. Pat's were just one behind, they were always in with a chance of scuppering Shells' title ambitions. And that's exactly what happened. An over-robust challenge by Greg Costello on Ozam gave St. Pat's the free kick. The big number 7 moved up for Paul Campbell's delivery, and once Goff came in vain, the equaliser was assured. Shells had the chances to get a winner, but failed. And Derry City were the only victors following this 1-1 draw.
Yes, Shelbourne's title ambitions dealt a major blow last night. They're now 7 points behind Derry with 6 games to go.
Waterford for what looked like a very difficult semi-final in the Regional Sports Centre. The first ever semi-final at the venue, where Waterford had already beaten Shamrock Rovers and Drogheda United in earlier rounds. And there was a huge crowd to see one of the biggest soccer matches in the southeast for quite some time. 8,500 people packed Waterford's Regional Sports Ground in anticipation of Tommy Lynch's charges reliving the good old days. But they were silenced after just 2 minutes. Tony Sheridan whipped in the first corner of the game, mass confusion reigned, and Dave Campbell's glancing header was adjudged to have crossed the line. The perfect start for the visitors, disaster for the underdogs at such an early stage. The Waterford keeper John Grace in his defence at 6s and 7s, Campbell's header judged to have crossed the line by linesman Eddie Foley, and there seemed to be little complaint. So shell-shocked were Waterford that it took some 20 minutes before they had their first shot on target. Colin Fanning with a speculative effort, which never really troubled Alan Goff. Mark Rutherford was a constant thorn in the side of Waterford, and after 22 minutes he almost brought about Shell's second. A lovely run down the left and a deft pass almost unlocked the door for Declan Geoghegan, but some excellent covering by Tommy Lynch saved the day. John Grace in the Waterford goal thankful for the last-ditch tackle from his player-manager. Shelbourne began to turn on the style thereafter and created numerous opportunities. Neville to Vodacam, the Frenchman's cross parried by Grace and cleared in the nick of time by Lynch. Shell's pressure converted into a second goal on the half hour. A tenacious and committed Desi Baker set up a 1-2 with Vodacam. Baker's looping cross looked to be in the arms of Grace, but he spilled it and Mark Rutherford pounced. A moment to forget for John Grace, but Rutherford's finish was clinical. At that point, many expected Waterford to crack, but how wrong we were. Almost directly from the restart, they were back in contention. Some wonderful control and awareness from Darren Brown gave him the space to unleash a great shot. Alan Goff had little chance with this superb effort. Brown could have brought Waterford level just before the break. A long speculative ball from Joe Reynolds found Lynch. He beat the offside trap and delivered a great cross, but somehow Brown conspired to miss at the far post. So 2-1 to Shells and the promise of an enthralling second half in store. 8 minutes into the half, Shells and Rutherford were again on the attack. Another tricky run from Rutherford eventually created space for Stephen Gagan. His shot was just inches wide. The Shell striker just back from Macedonia, losing none of his sharpness while on international duty. A minute later, Rutherford again broke down the left and delivered a telling cross. This time it was Desi Baker who arrived just too late to convert Shell's third. Waterford's first chance of the second half was created more in hope than in direct play. A ball from the back from Tony Hall was pounced upon by Donald Golden. His looping cross had Alan Goff under immense pressure, but the keeper kept his nerve despite the presence of Brown to clear to safety. Not an easy ball for Goff to deal with, but he was equal to the task. As the half wore on, Shelbourne became more defensive and Waterford had ample opportunity to draw level. 20 minutes before the end, substitute Trond Debes set Brown on his way, but he shot wildly over and should have done better. Alan Reynolds provided the next chance for Waterford moments later, but this time Debes and the bumpy surface conspired to stave off Waterford's challenge. Just look again at the moment of contact, the ball takes an ugly bounce and Gagan is able to clear. Waterford's final opportunity came in injury time. The long throw from Reynolds caused momentary panic. Brown had a chance, but he missed the target. Inches separating Waterford from extra time, but Shelbourne held firm for a 2-1 win. They now go to their third successive cup final.
Very disappointed considering the 2 goals we gave them, really. I thought it was great credit. We got a great goal of our own. And in the second half, really, we had very good chances and just didn't take them. But that's the way it goes.
We played some very constructive football. We created numerous chances, and if we'd have taken even a reasonable percentage of chances, we would have won the game quite comfortably. Having said that, I have to credit Waterford. They kept going right to the very end. Even into injury time, they could have snatched an equaliser. But it's a thrilling performance, a thrilling cup tie in the best tradition.
So Shelbourne will play Derry City in a repeat of the 1995 final. For Derry, it's their third final in 4 years. For Shells, it's their third final in a row. The cup specialist of recent times meet head-to-head once more. And the final takes place on Bank Holiday Monday, the 5th of May in Lansdowne Road. And of course, we'll be bringing you live coverage of the game beginning at 2:45.
And there's James Mulligan. 1-0 to the Harps. And that's a great goal for them. 19 minutes gone. McGranahan, Speak on the outside. He's got Scallon at the far post and it's come right through to him. He's only got Goff to beat. And 2-0, Finn Harps on their way to their first victory in 6. McGranahan finds Speak. Bit of space. Might try the chip. Oh, Goff had to be good there. Caught it well. Jonathan Speak so long without a goal. 5 minutes to the break. Sheridan. Baker's kept running from the corner, and here's a chance. and right through the arms of Nash. Shells right back into it, 2-1. Jonathan Minnick's free kick. Dave Deary's header. And there's Mulligan. And here's Speak. Blocked by Campbell. Kelly can't get it over the line though. Goff there to save. Costello with the throw in. And Stephen Kelly with the interception. Past the square Shelbourne defence. He's got Scully for pace. And Mulligan arriving. And that's 3. And surely now the points wrapped up by Finn Harps. James Mulligan's 5th goal in 5 games. Brian Flood. A long hopeful pass. Out comes the keeper. And Stuart Gold has put it past Nash. 3-2, but Finn Harps surely with the points. We're into the 91st minute.
And indeed it was the points for Finn Harps. Well, last Wednesday, Bray Wanderers lost their first night match under the